Okay, so here we are in my 2021 Weimaran. We'll have to take a tour of this later once I get the cover off. It's been winter here, even though it's almost 80 degrees outside. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to modify the drain in our sink here. Now we have a very simple setup here in this trailer. We've got a 9 or 10 gallon freshwater tank, runs off of a pump. The switch is right here. And then the drain actually comes straight out of the sink. There's no trap. And then it comes down here through the tube and out to a port on the outside of the trailer. You have to hook a hose up to that, and I have a little 2.5 gallon carboy tank that I usually drain the water into. Now for the most part we hardly ever use this sink. However, this summer we want to be able to utilize harvest hosts. And if you read the fine print in a harvest host, you're supposed to be fully contained and not have any bladders of any kind outside of your trailer. So what I was planning on doing was going to disconnect this hose right here. And I've bought hose disconnects, quick disconnects. I'm going to hook one end up to the drain right here, another end up to this hose that goes outside. So if I ever want to drain the water on the outside, I can do that. And then in addition to that, I've purchased some additional hose here, and those are the quick connects, disconnects I should say, or connects. And I'm going to create another hose that would go to the 2.5 gallon carboy. So this isn't really a how-to. The other tools I'm using is I use a heat gun. That hose that was on the drain was on there pretty tight, so I just heated it up for about 30 seconds and it came loose. Got a tape measure, Sharpie. I'm going to try using PVC cutters to cut the tube. If not, probably a razor blade and then a screwdriver. So this isn't really a how-to, this is how I'm going to do it. And so here we go. First thing I'm going to do is disconnect that tubing there, and then I'm going to create a little stub that'll go on there with half of the quick disconnect. And once I get that on there, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see now, I've connected just a very short piece of tubing here to that nipple that's coming out of the drain of the sink right there. I've connected 1/2 of my quick disconnect to the other end of that hose. And so the very first thing I'm going to do, you can see it there, is now I'm going to connect the other half to this end of the drain hose that actually goes outside and connect it up. And then the next step after that is I'll be making a length of hose that will connect to this disconnect right here, quick disconnect, and then go down to the 2.5 gallon carboy. So that's the next steps. Okay, so this in essence is my gray water tank. I know it's pretty small, but we would just be doing this to wash our hands and face and get some water to brush our teeth. But it's a 2.5 gallon carboy. I did have to find a spout here that I need to get a hose connection in order to screw on here. once it's all connected, you can vent it right here with this white cap. But as you can see, for the outside drain, I've got the quick disconnect hooked up, and see if I can do this with one hand here. You can see that it goes on and connects like that. So now my next step is, I've already got the quick disconnect on this end of the hose. So I'm going to have to run down to the local hardware store, find a hose fitting to fit into this hose. This is 5/8 inch inside diameter. That's the size that is right here in my trailer. Obviously your trailer or RV could be different. So the next step is I'm going to go find a hose connection to screw onto here that'll fit into this tubing here, and I'll cut this to length so the quick connect can go up there, the hose connection can screw on there, and then I'll be able to use this internally if I want to boondock or stealth camp, or if we're at a harvest host. Okay, so through the magic of YouTube, I actually just ran down to a local implement store, bought this hose end that is 5/8 inch size to fit the inside diameter of 5/8 inch, and then this will screw right on to this. There we go. And so the next thing I need to do is, and I can't do it with one hand, but we're going to cut the tube to length here and then put this fitting on the end. And then for the most part, that part will be done. Then we'll have to test by pouring some water down the drain and see if we have any leaks up here at this quick disconnect, and the same down here. I can't test the outside right now because I've got the cover on the trailer and I can't get to the outside fitting for this hose right here. So we'll get this cut and this fitting put on the end, and then we'll see how it works. Okay, so I've got the hose connected there, and then put the light up there, and then there's the quick disconnect right there. So the hose comes down. Now the one thing that I found is, in order to get this threaded on, it's best to thread this on. Put the light down. Thread this on first so that you can make sure you're not stripping out your plastic threads here, and then connect it up to the quick disconnect. So the next step is I'm gonna go get some water and we're gonna pour it down the drain here and see if it works. Well, here we go. So here we go. We're either going to be successful or we're going to make a huge mess. Not sure if we can see it here. Okay, so I'm going to pour some water in the sink. I've got the plug in right now, so just reach in. Oh, looks like it's coming out some. Didn't have the plug all the way in. And there we go. And Well, we're backing up and we're leaking out, which is not good. So I don't know why this isn't working. Have to try to figure that out. Well, don't be a dummy like me and forget that you have a cap in your tank. And so now I've just spilled water all over the place. Luckily, this is an all aluminum trailer, so the floor is aluminum and it's easy to clean up. But let me get this fixed, get the cap out of here, put this back together, and then we'll give it another shot. But one thing I did notice though is that when it was backing up, it was leaking out of the quick connect. I didn't think it'd be an issue because this really isn't under pressure, but with all that water sitting up in the sink and then in the hose, I guess it was seeping. So hopefully with a free flow there shouldn't be a problem. But we'll get this cap taken out and then we'll get it set up and try to test it again. All right, here we go. Test number 2. The cap is out. We're connected up here. That should be open. We got the quick disconnect going. So here we go. We'll just pour a little bit and see what happens. Well, that seems to work much better without that cap in there. Let's see if we can tell if there's any sort of leaking up here. It doesn't feel like it, but let's pour a little bit more. You can see it going down. I know light may not be that great. Guess what I'll do next is put the plug in the sink, pour some water in, then take the plug out and see what happens. Okay, I got the plug in the sink, I poured some water in. Now we're going to go down here and let's see what happens when we go underneath here. And see what happens when we get a rush of water, if there's any issues. And the best I can tell, it's not leaking. Have to just double check it on the video. See if there's any leaks. I know there's a little bit of water, but that was from my first mess up with the plug in it. So I think I'm going to call that a success. So probably what I'm going to do though, for the most part, so I'm just going to leave the exterior hose connected all the time, because most of the time we'll be using that. It's just when we want to be stealth or camping at a harvest host to be fully contained. If we want to use the sink, well, I use this carboy inside as my gray tank. So I think that's it. Thank you.